Good evening. My name is Chuck Iovan. I'll be presiding over this evening's meeting of the Malden Planning Board, November 10th, 2021. Take care of a few administrative matters first. For those in attendance under the provisions of the open meeting law, attendees are informed that this meeting is being recorded by Urban Media Arts, formerly MATV. I have not been notified that any other video or audio recording of this meeting will occur. The next thing we will do is we will go through our roll call, starting with Risa Gray. If you could give your name and position for the record, and please make sure that you speak into the microphone so that everyone can hear. Thank you.
Risa Gray, Planning Board.
ተወዳጅ ገብረስላሴ ፕላኒንግ ቦርድ
Patrick Fitzgerald, Planning Board.
Chuck Iovan, Planning Board.
Michelle Romero, City Planner.
Pat Hayes, Planning Board.
Eric Henry, Planning Board.
Henry Susi, Planning Board.
Thank you very much. We have 3 items on the agenda this evening. The first one we'll take up will be 260 Eastern Avenue, then 204, 210 Highland Avenue, and then finally 950, 970 Eastern Ave. Michelle, can you read the notice and the information for 260 Eastern Ave, please?
Yes. The Malden Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the Herbert L. Jackson Council Chamber, Malden City Hall, 215 Pleasant Street, Malden, Mass. At 7 p.m. on Wednesday, November 10th, 2021, tabled on September 13th, 2021, on the petition of E.C. Barton & Co., permit application number COO037639-2021, seeking a special permit under section 12.12.090 of Chapter 12, revised ordinances of 2020 as amended of the City of Malden, to allow off-site parking facility use of property in the Industrial 1 zoning district, namely to construct an off-site, off-street parking lot with 22 spaces at the property known as in number 260 Eastern Avenue, Malden, Mass., and by Malden City Assessors Parcel ID 086268805. We received via email October 12th, 2021, a correspondence that reads, please accept this correspondence as an official notice that the petitioners regarding 260 Eastern Avenue, Malden, Massachusetts, wish to withdraw without prejudice their special permit application pursuant to section 12.12.090 of Chapter 12 of the revised ordinances of 2021 as amended. It reads, I know that you and the building inspector have incurred significant time and effort in preparing for this petition. To that regard as well, I thank both of you for your professionalism. It was addressed to me. The email was also sent to me, and it's signed by Chris Fallon, Esquire, Law Office of Christopher G. Fallon, PC, 99 Highland Avenue, Malden, Mass.
Thank you very much. So for 260 Eastern Ave, we have a request for withdrawal without prejudice, and it was received well before a week before our meeting. So is there a motion? Patrick Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd make a motion to allow the petitioner's request to withdraw the petition without prejudice.
Very good. Is there a second for Patrick's motion? Henry Susi.
I'll second that motion.
Very good. Give me a second here. Go ahead.
So a yes vote is to allow the withdrawal without prejudice. Patrick Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Tawadej Gebrselassie,
yes
Risa Gray,
Yes.
Patrick Hayes,
Yes.
Eric Henry,
Yes.
Henry Susi,
Yes.
Charles Ioban.
Yes. 260 Eastern Avenue has been allowed to be withdrawn without prejudice. The next item is 204, 210 Highland Avenue. Michelle, if you could read the notice, please.
The Malden Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the Herbert L. Jackson Council Chamber, Malden City Hall, 215 Pleasant Street, Malden, Mass. At 7 p.m. on Wednesday, November 10th, 2021, on the petition of 204-210 Highland Ave Realty Trust, permit application number CMID 032-409-2020, seeking a special permit under section 12.28.010D1 of chapter 12 of the revised ordinances of 2020 as amended of the city of Malden, to alter, structurally change, extend, and change use of a pre-existing non-conforming property in the Residence A zoning district, namely to construct additions and reconfigure the interior of the existing 2.5-story building and convert the building from a restaurant use and dwelling to a 4-family dwelling in the property known as a numbered, or at the property known as a numbered 204-210 Highland Avenue, Malden, Mass., and by Malden City Assessors Parcel ID 038-188-803.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Is the petitioner present? If you'd come up, sir. Speak into the microphone, please. Name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Director Romero, members of the board. My name is Christopher Fallon. My law officers are at 99 Highland Avenue, Malden. I am asking that this matter, as opposed to the first one that you heard, be tabled until your next available meeting. We are in receipt, my client and I are in receipt of the recommendations by the executive director of the planning board and believe that they are very constructive recommendations, and we would like to ask for just 30 more days until the next meeting of the planning board in order to address some of the recommendations. I am very optimistic that we're going to be able to address, if not all of them, the vast majority of them. To that regard, and additional time would allow us to come forward at the next meeting, I ask that it be tabled as opposed to the prior hearing being withdrawn. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Michelle, any guidance or?
Well, you are receiving this request less than 7 business days prior to the hearing. So typically, and you have a rule that requires there must be exigent circumstances to entertain a request to table. So if you find exigent circumstances, you can move ahead and allow that. If not, you would need to waive your rule and then take up the matter of the tabling.
From my opinion, there are exigent circumstances in that between members being missing and some members who have conflicts of interest, that I think that would qualify as exigent circumstances. Does anyone else have any other thoughts?
I will note, that's correct, you do have 7 members tonight, and 6 of the 7 would need to vote affirmatively to grant a special permit.
Okay. So in that case, is there a motion to allow the tabling? Motion to table? Henry Susi.
I make a motion to table the issue for a period of 30 days.
Very good. Henry's made a motion to table this petition. Eric Henry.
I'll second that motion.
Eric Henry seconds the motion to allow tabling for 204-210 Highland Avenue.
Would you want me to send notice to abutters of the table date of hearing? The
Yes,
date of the
please.
tabled hearing?
Yes,
Okay, republication will not be required. We will post the new notice with the city clerk, and we will mail to all abutters.
Very good.
Okay, so a yes vote would be to table to 30 days. You said the next meeting is December 8th, I believe. Yes, it's December 8th. Okay, so on that, Patrick Fitzgerald,
No.
Tawadej Gebrselassie,
Yes.
Risa Gray,
Yes.
Patrick Hayes,
Yes.
Eric Henry,
Yes.
Henry Susi,
Yes.
Charles Ioven.
Yes. So that
that's
has passed.
6 to 1 that passed, the motion passed.
That's
Mr.
passed.
Chairman, Ms. Romero, members of the board, thank you. Thank you.
Very good, thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is 950, 970 Eastern Avenue. Michelle, if you could read the notice, or... Yeah. But while he's getting settled, if you want to read it, that'd be great, unless you're doing something else. Yeah. What do you mean? Yeah. What? Wouldn't want you to be sitting here for a couple hours.
The Malden Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the Herbert L. Jackson Council Chamber, Malden City Hall, 215 Pleasant Street, Malden, Mass., at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, November 10th, 2021, on the petition of PSI Atlantic Malden, Mass. LLC, on behalf of the property owner 950-970 Eastern Ave, LLC, permit application number CMID 037-601, 2021, seeking a special permit under section 12.12.030 of Chapter 12 of the Revised Ordinances of 2020 as amended to the City of Malden to allow self-storage facilities use of property in the Industrial 1 zoning district, namely a new building to be constructed containing 81,700 square feet and 4 stories at the property known as a number 950-970 Eastern Avenue, Malden, and by Malden City Assessor's Parcel ID number 126485501.
Thank you very much, Michelle. And I see the petition is present, podium's on. Name and address for the record, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Attorney Patrick McDonald. I have offices at 479 Eastern Avenue here in Malden, and I represent the petitioner in this matter, PSI Atlantic Malden, Mass. LLC, seeking a special permit relative to the property at 950, 970 Eastern Avenue for the purpose of demolishing the existing structure located thereat and building a new 81,700 square foot self-storage facility that will be 4 stories in height. A brief procedural history for the benefit of the board. The petitioner was before the Historical Commission in March of this year and obtained a determination by that body that this structure was not, in its opinion, of historical significance, and therefore demolition could go forward without any delay under the ordinance. The petitioner then proceeded in July of this year to appear before the Board of Appeal, originally seeking a number of variances related to lot coverage, parking, and setbacks. As a result of comments received from the Board of Appeal, from Councilor-at-Large Winslow, now Councilor-elect Winslow for Ward 6, and a direct abutter to the west, we requested and were granted an opportunity to table the matter for 1 month and reappear before the board in August of this year. Pursuant to the comments received from the board, the abutter, and the Councilor-at-Large at the time, a number of changes were made to the original plans. The building itself was reduced in size, and the reduction in size eliminated the need at that time for any setback variances. It also, the smaller size building did not eliminate, but lessened the dimensional control violation related to lot coverage, bringing it down to 53.8%, which is identical to the existing structure on the property. In addition, and as mentioned, comments were received from the direct abutter to the west. His concerns at that time were that he had had a significant solar panel array installed on his building, and that the height of the structure and the siting of the structure on the lot he thought would have an adverse impact on the solar array he had established. So the petitioner essentially flipped the building in order to address his concerns. The shape of the building and the open area on the lot was changed so that the sun could hit the abutters' solar panels and not block the height. The height of the building at 4 stories would not block or shade his solar panels. The abutter was very pleased with that, appeared before the Board of Appeal at that time, indicated he was very satisfied and grateful for the changes that were made. Councilor Winslow also at that time, after meeting with him and discussing his concerns, also appeared before the Board of Appeal and expressed his support for the project. As I mentioned in the interim, and I'm sure the board knows, he has become Ward 6 Councilor-elect, so he's now the ward councilor for the ward in which this property relies. This proposal, as I said, is to create to demolish the existing factory, the old Acelon Plastics factory at the site in its entirety, and to build a brand-new 4-story, 81,700 square foot self-storage facility, which will contain a minimum of 650 individual storage units in it, but could contain more. These types of facilities can vary in terms, at any given point in time, in terms of how many units are contained within, because they are subject to change. They can be relatively small, or they can be somewhat larger, and the petitioner has the ability, as most of these facilities have, to adjust the size of the units as needed based on demand. For purposes of our hearing tonight, having obtained the variances needed for the structure from the Board of Appeal, the use, that of a self-storage facility, is permitted in an Industrial 1 zoning district, which is the district in which this property lies, subject and pursuant to special permit granted by this board. I would suggest to the board that the legal requirements for the grant of a special permit are met in this instance. This is a project that I think we can suggest with confidence to the board will not adversely affect the neighborhood and certainly not detrimentally affect the neighborhood in any way. That section of Eastern Ave, it is an industrial corridor and zoned as such. This is a type of development which currently exists in several locations on Eastern Ave. The old Continental Can Factory has a storage facility. The former site of, I believe it was Boston Steel and Manufacturing, has a storage facility at it. And there's a site at the old Knitting Mills building in the square on Ferry Street. So this is a use that has been made of this particular area. And I think there's a track record for the benefit of the board that these facilities do not disrupt or impact in any detrimental way any surrounding properties, whether that be with respect to traffic or the buildings themselves. We don't anticipate that this would be in conflict with surrounding uses in that area. As I said, on the stretch of Eastern Ave itself, there are multiple identical uses going on right now. And that area of Eastern Ave has a significant mixed use. Some residences located on the southern side of the street, commercial developments, and a commercial plaza right next door to this site, and a new commercial development we see at the corner of Maplewood and Eastern Ave. So this is not something that is in any way out of character with what currently takes place on Eastern Avenue. As the planner's report indicates, there was no traffic study required for this. Some materials, information, and data were submitted to the planning board and to Commissioner Miller, who determined that it was not required under that. And I'd suggest to the board that despite the fact that this would be a large facility, and these facilities tend to be large, that they nevertheless do not, as a practical matter, generate traffic concerns of any kind or parking concerns of any kind. The individuals on the team have some data that will be presented to the board relative to parking and use of these facilities. And as I said, I think the board has the benefit of a track record in that this is not a new use in this Industrial 1 zoning district. There are multiple properties that have the same use. And to my knowledge, None of them have become problematic in any way, shape, manner, or form with respect to traffic of any kind or parking of any kind. I think that was made clear to the board when it granted the variance for parking. Technically under zoning, in excess of 80 or 90 parking spaces were technically required for a facility of this size, but they nevertheless saw fit to grant the variance with only 15 parking spaces being available, suggesting that in their opinion, that was more than adequate. And I think they relied in part on the same things that will be presented to this board, which is the history and the track record of these kinds of facilities that already exist on Eastern Avenue, as well as the information and data that was provided by the petitioner relative to actual use, actual utilization of parking spaces on the site. We met in person with Councilor Winslow to hear his concerns and make an effort to address them. And I think we have. Some of those have been incorporated in the suggested conditions in the planning report, specifically the creation of a fence, the requirement to maintain the area along the bike path, keep it clean, keep it well maintained, keep it manicured to some extent. He was concerned about signage being on the rear of the building. Asked if the petitioner could, subject of course to Sign Design Review Committee approval, provide signage on the rear of the building. Asked if the petitioner would be willing to provide lighting as security and video camera surveillance as security along the bike path. All of these were acceptable to the petitioner and would not be objected to by the petitioner if they ultimately ended up as conditions in a special permit. I do believe that in particular, two requests of the counselor are not addressed in any way in the conditions proposed in the report. That the first being the signage issue. Ward Councilor Winslow has requested that some signage be installed on what would be the rear of the building, that portion of it facing the bike path. The petitioner, again, is more than happy to do that, subject only to a necessary approval from the Sign Design Review Committee. We don't see that mentioned in the planning report. However, we would not object, and we have specifically represented to the counselor that we would make the presentation at the hearing that we're agreeable to that condition and have no objection to it being a formal condition should the planning board be inclined to grant the relief being requested. The second issue that the counselor was concerned about was, given that Housing Families is located essentially directly across the street from this new facility if it goes forward, and the need for storage for people who are utilizing the services provided by Housing Families, if the petitioner could offer something in the nature of assistance to referrals that might come from Housing Families. The proposal that was made to Councilor Winslow was that the petitioner would make available one storage space within the facility at no charge to referrals that might come to the facility from Housing Families or other housing support agencies or entities that exist in the city. I'm not sure if the Planner Romero was aware of that, but we certainly made that representation and promise to the ward councilor, and we're now making it clear to the board that based on the promises we've already made to the ward councilor, we would ask that if, again, the board is inclined to grant the relief requested, that be included as an additional condition on any grant of a special permit. With me tonight are the team members, so to speak, co-counsel Attorney John Parslin, as well as representatives of the petitioner, their engineer, and their architect, who are all available to address any specific concerns the board members may have with the plan or the proposal. I believe I'm going to ask our engineer to step forward afterwards to go over some of the details of the project from an engineering perspective, and also to perhaps inquire of the board regarding the bicycle rack proposed condition in here. Let me just say in general, the petitioner has no objection to any of the conditions imposed or suggested in the planning report, and would not have a problem if those were tacked on to any approval that might be forthcoming, if one is, as well as the two conditions that I mentioned with respect to Councilor Winslow. But I believe the engineer has a technical question regarding that perhaps the board could hear and provide some guidance on.
Very, very good.
Thank you, Patrick. Eric Gerard, I'm a civil engineer with VHB. Thank you for hearing us tonight. I'd first like to run through just the basics of the project. As Patrick mentioned, the site is located at 950, 970 Eastern Ave. It's just under 0.9 acres for the site, and it's bounded by the bike rack to the north, retail strip mall area to the east, residential to the south, and more commercial space, industrial space to the west. It is zoned Industrial 1. The existing building is approximately 48,000 square feet. And as mentioned, going through the ZBA process, the existing building violated all the setbacks. So this new proposed building, we are pulling it all within the setbacks as required. The lot itself, it's primarily all paved. It's about 99% impervious area. The proposed project, we are going to be bringing back a lot of green space. We're reducing impervious area by about 20%. So as proposed, it is a 4-story, 81,700 square foot structure. We're providing 15 total parking spaces. 12 of those are on the surface, and 3 of them are proposed within the loading area. We're also showing 4 bicycle racks. And the interpretation when we went through the zoning was based on bicycle racks for the requirement would be for residential, business, and institutional uses. And with this being classified in the industrial use, we did not think that calculation applied. So we did apply it to the office area within the structure, which is about 900 square feet. So with that, it would require the minimum of the 2 spaces. So we doubled that to 4. So we thought we were doing the right thing and adding a little bit extra due to the proximity to the bike rack. We are providing adequate snow storage along the edge of the parking field. Along this side, we're almost doubling the required that's called for in zoning. The dumpster is shown in the rear corner. It is a little close to the setbacks, so we have no issues moving that. In the staff report, it mentioned bringing that out to the 20-foot setback. That's fine on our end. We can certainly pull that in. Landscaping, we are providing 7 new trees, which is above the required for zoning, in addition to a bunch of perennial and ground cover plantings. As far as utilities, we have coordinated with the city engineer. We did just receive a letter from him this afternoon. There are no concerns within the recommendation, so we feel we can address those comments as we move through the process with engineering. Additionally, we did provide the traffic analysis to compare the existing building, the existing use, compared to the self-storage use. Overall, the trip generation, we are significantly reducing by about 20 vehicle trips during the peak hour. In addition, we did provide a parking analysis to the area self-storage uses, and we are significantly overparked for the, for the parking spaces we are providing. The peak parking demand at the largest facility, which is 50% larger than this building, was 8 parking spaces during the peak hour. Overall, those are the technical pieces for the project, and happy to answer any questions.
Yes, sir. Just a couple of questions. If I read the plans right, the height of this facility is going to be just shy of 48 feet?
Correct. The parapet, I believe, is 47 feet, 3.5 inches or so, yeah.
How does that compare to the Ace-Lawn building that exists today?
I'll have to confirm the height of that building. 1 second. Yeah, right now, the existing building is 4 stories at the highest, I believe. Let me see if it's on the height at the front corner, 37 feet. It's on the existing conditions plan, so we're at similar, slightly higher than the existing building is today. Yeah, the existing building appears to be 37 feet tall per our survey.
Okay, thank you. Did you need to, question answered on the bicycle, requirement calculation? I
If-
saw Michelle grabbed, the code book.
If we could get clarification, that would be great. Like Patrick mentioned, you know, we're okay if we do need to install that many racks for this particular project. However, if we could go with what is required, we can certainly do that too.
Yes, I'll ask the, I do believe that is correct. The requirement does apply for multifamily residential dwellings, institutional or business use. I don't have a copy of the original amendment here with me tonight. But I would have to say, if we specified these particular uses, we did not include industrial uses. Business uses are different from industrial uses, so that would be correct. It does not apply, so that is incorrect, what is in the staff report. You are not required to provide that bicycle parking. I don't believe you're required to provide any, now that I'm reading this again. I'll defer to Nelson Miller, the building commissioner who's here, if he has a different interpretation of that. I was here when we drafted that, but like I said, I don't have the documentation to look back and see, but if it's not in there, it's expressly not in there, you
Excluded,
know, so. So I would say that does not apply.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. But you show, of 4, I believe it's 4, parking for 4 bicycles on the plan. Would
Correct.
you still be willing to honor that?
Yeah, we're good with the, yep. Excuse me.
Thank you. What is the timeframe of presuming the petition's granted, what would be the timeframe of the construction and what, if any, special staging would be needed to tear the old building down and to build the new building? Because Easton Ave's a rather busy, thoroughfare, so what would you expect the inconvenience to the neighborhood to be? How long and what types of things would you envision?
Yeah, as far as disruption to the surrounding area, there's a good amount of space on the site that's existing, open, kind of parking, yard area to be able to stage for the existing building to come down. There would be some temporary measures when the sidewalks get reconstructed, as far as temporary pedestrian measures to close that portion of sidewalk as the new sidewalk gets poured. That would be the primary disruption for the modifications out front. But otherwise, the overall construction duration for a building like this, we talking 12 to 18 months or, yeah.
12 to 18 months?
12 to 14. And you'd be looking to probably start in the spring, correct? Or soon.
Sir, if you're going to speak, please come up. Name and address for the record. And if you could both make sure you sign the clipboard, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, Board, thank you. My name is Pete Williams. I'm president of Premier Storage Investors and president of the applicant, PSI Atlantic Malden Mass LLC, I think is the name, correct name. Yes, sir. We would, if granted this and able to, once we were able to close and become owners of the property, we would petition immediately for a demo permit in connection with probably a site plan application. And as soon as we could do that, we would demo the building ASAP. I'm not so sure on the length of time of that. It really just depends on the attention of the contractor, but as soon after that as we could, we would do site work. Our site work plus construction, probably right at 14 months is what we've been experiencing for the past 3 or 4 years, and certainly through COVID here, it's been taking a little longer than we'd like sometimes, from 12 months, sometimes stretching out to 14, 15 months. And like Eric said, in that construction, the disruption to traffic typically is whenever we are doing sidewalks and setting, maybe new utilities, having those folks in the process. So, demo to open, hopefully that would take place within 2 years. And certainly the start of that would depend on when we could obtain permits from building department and engineering building. Yes, sir.
What do you typically see as your ramp-up time once you open the facility? You've got over 600 units.
Yes, sir. It's definitely a thing in our business. We open, we're empty, and it is we call it a lease-up period, and we estimate on a property this size, it would take us approximately 2 years to reach, between 90-95% occupancy. It happens slower than a lot of products, for sure.
Now, you said you've been doing this for 3 or 4 years?
I'm talking about the last 3 or 4 years. Personally, this is my 32nd year of being in the self-storage business. I've been a one-trick pony my whole life, and bought and developed transactions over 350 properties, over 35 states in those 32 years.
Okay.
Our company today, the mandate and what we set out to do every day in our company today is identify need in top 20 MSAs throughout the U.S. and this particular market and the location where we are, there's a real need for more product. It's been way underserved. There's some folks that have come here the past few years. It's still way underserved. The science of that for our industry is there's approximately 4.2, 4.3 square feet per capita for this trade area in self-storage. Throughout the country, the average is 7 to 8 in order to meet the need of the community. These properties are very full. Their rents are candidly higher than they should be and need to be because there's not enough supply for the demand, which we, once that's met, the constituents and the people in the community benefit from having a nice supply balance because price doesn't get, out of whack for people that don't have enough supply in the market. So we identified this. We're really excited to come be a neighbor here in this city. We take great care. The design of the property is solely for the customer. Everything we do is for the customer. We're customer oriented. That's been a winning recipe for me personally in this business for you know, like I said, 32 years this year. So.
And
that's-
is Extra Space Storage your brand name?
Extra Space Storage is our partner that we manage, that manages most of our storage facilities. I think today we have, 30 self-storage facilities that are open. They probably manage 22 of them, I believe. CubeSmart is our other partner and manager. Both of those companies are best-in-class operators. They're both public companies, do everything right, highly focused, can't afford not to do business in our space the way it's supposed to be done. It's not just, you know, running by the seat of their pants. Everything's regimented, like I said, best-in-class operating procedures.
Now, how long do you typically own a property? Because if you've done 350.
It really varies. I mean, in my life, I probably owned some for 10 minutes and some for, 15 years. It don't really have a defined, quote, exit strategy. Typically, companies like ours, when we do exit, it's probably one of those. We have 5 self-storage REITs in our little universe, in our self-storage universe, and one of those is typically the buyer or partner with a capital partner that buys it, and the properties many times continue with the people that are already there because they know the property better than anybody. So they're the most likely people that you would exit to if you were to decide to sell in 5 years or so. I say most likely. It's, obviously nothing guaranteed, but they buy a lot of self-storage facilities every year.
Okay, no, the reason why I ask is we had recently we had a facility down the street. I believe it's 450 or 420 or whatever on Eastern Avenue.
I know the guys that developed that, and they sold to Public Storage.
They turned it over in 18 months, 2 years?
Yeah, that's not my goal. That's not our goal. I mean, our goal is to accumulate and hold, longer term. But, I guess valuations sometimes dictate those things. But that has been that group's modus operandi I've been doing this a long time, so I know everybody. I know everybody in this business and that's doing something institutional throughout the country, and we're aware of them, and that's kind of what they do and how they do it. Not us. That's not.
Okay, now I'm just more curious than anything. I see Eric
understand.
Henry has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think first, just a little point of order, if I could. I don't think either of you gentlemen actually gave us your addresses for the record.
Oh, sure.
At some point,
yes.
would you mention that?
Yes, like I said, my name's Pete Williams, President, Premier Storage Investors. We're domiciled at 530 Oak Court Drive, Suite 155, Memphis, Tennessee, area code 38117.
Thank you, sir.
Eric Gerard, I'm a project manager with VHB. Our headquarters are in Watertown, 101 Walnut Street.
Thank you. I did see in the staff report, it alluded to, just kind of going along with the issue about the bike path and the bike storage racks. It said there was supposed to be, they were supposed to be stored near access points to the bike trail. How many access points do you have to the bike trail?
I was going to come before the board again on this particular issue, just to hopefully clarify any potential misconceptions. So the plans depict a gate along the rear property line, which is the northern property line. But I wanted to dispel any notion that the gate is depicted for purposes of access to and from this site from the bike path in terms of people who might be utilizing the bike path. The purpose of the gate is to facilitate the care and maintenance of the bike path area by the petitioner. But it was never the intent of the petitioner. In our discussions with Councilor Winslow, he came to the understanding that we weren't looking to have open and free access at multiple points on the site so that people on the bike path could come into this lot if they were utilizing, for instance, a storage site. One of the big problems is that there's a significant grade difference between the bike path and the lot. It's about 3 feet, if I'm not mistaken. And if you've seen the site, you see a small retaining wall back there. This would require, at a minimum, steps, perhaps ramps, and that could be potentially problematic. We want to accommodate the board's concerns regarding accessibility via bike, and we wanted to accommodate the concerns of Councilor Winslow with respect to that. But in discussing it with him, he came, again, to the understanding and realization that he was originally under the impression that there was an existing cut-through that was being utilized, and there is not an existing cut-through. There is one right next door behind Dunkin' Donuts. It's not an official access point. It's more someone has folded back the fencing there, and people utilize it, but one can understand how people on the bike path might want to make it easier to get from the bike path to Dunkin' Donuts, where they sell products that drinks and coffee and so on and so forth. We don't envision a significant need for people to utilize the bike path for purposes of access to this facility if they are accessing it on bikes. As I said, we're more than amenable to any requirement or condition the board might place with respect to accommodating bikes in terms of storage. We made that representation to Councilor Winslow. We make it to the board as well. But as I said, I don't want the board to get the wrong impression with respect to why that gate is there. There will be one gate, or we're proposing one gate, but it's really more for facility of care and maintenance of the area along the bike path for which the petitioner expects to be responsible as part of this project.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Eric, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, just to further that, so on the plans, it says 5-foot ornamental fence with gate. So you said there's just one gate, because there's two ends of the building, you're just gonna have the one gate, and that's gonna remain locked?
Yeah, the plans show on each side, there was gonna be a gate on each side, and
Yeah.
just so they could easily be
Just
accessed.
to make it easier for
Correct.
maintenance and everything.
But they would be, the intent would be, they would be locked, and maintenance would be able to, and landscaping crews could access.
Okay, yeah, yeah, because I wouldn't expect, or maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think a lot of people on bikes go to storage facilities. I could be wrong. A question back on the fence too. So you've got fencing along the bike path, which is the northern side and the western side. Is there a reason why there's fencing on the west side and not on the east side? Just curious.
Yeah, the fencing on the west side, so it's kind of the existing alley with the abutter now. It's a pretty defined area, and the existing building's kind of acting as that barrier. So we just wanted to better define kind of the space back there. And there's an existing metal gate that we're bringing the fence to, and that gate will likely get replaced to accommodate the new fence as well. Just because the abutter also stores some stuff in that alley, that trash bins are back there and stuff like that.
Okay, and then,
On the Dunkin' Donuts side, there's an existing fence along their edge as well, and there's a grade change that comes down.
right, so that fence is gonna remain, because I know, there is a grade change between the two properties. So that's the Dunkin' Donuts property fence, the Adams.
Correct.
Was it Adams Street Plaza? Okay, so that'll remain.
Yep.
Okay. And then just one other thing, kind of reference, tying back into what the chair asked. The plans depict a certain color scheme for the building. That's going to remain. It's what's shown. That's what the intent is to keep that color scheme, correct? Yeah, only because, as the chairman mentioned, the previous storage facility down the street was one color scheme, and then when it was sold, it's a much more visible color now than it was when we approved it, so, okay. All right, thank you.
Patrick Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any technical questions, and I do appreciate the accommodations the petitioner has made as it relates to the concerns of the abutter and the ward counselor. I just ask how you argue that this particular proposal satisfies the condition that the proposed use is in the interest of the common good, where there are 3 other like businesses along Eastern Ave within 1.5 miles. What data do you have to suggest that this particular use at this particular location is needed and is in the interest of the common good?
Yes, sir. It speaks to need. Like I said, it currently exists for this trade area that from our property, the trade area of our property, which includes the storage facilities that you're talking about. There currently is 4.2 to 4.3 square feet per capita. Like I said, this is all we do, so we keep close tabs on occupancies, rates, and we've seen the result of the lack of supply result in, overflowing, extremely high occupancies, higher than normal, and rates extremely high, and because of basically a lack of supply. And again, you could, candidly, we're only building, was it 56,000? 56,000 net roundable square feet, which, for approximately 250,000 people in this trade area, that's roughly 1/2 of a square foot per capita, which will take it to still less than 5. We know, because this is all we do, that 7 to 8 square feet per capita would be the amount of space that would adequately serve your market and your community and the people in it. So, like I said, I mean, that is our mandate every day. We're not even interested in going to a market, no matter how great it is, if we go and we put the science to it. We've been doing it a long time, so there's a little art to, understanding, because there are some markets that are going to use a little less. There's some markets that will use a little bit more, depending on the dynamics of the size of units that people live in, their incomes, various things, make me kind of sometimes go in between, say, a six and a 9, throughout the country, in different markets. But certainly for us, it's a no-brainer. And I understand from your perspective, you're like, wait a minute, I've seen 2 of these things go up in the past 3 or 4 years, and they're not that far apart. I get it. I get the question, but, the bottom line is it's just sheer supply-demand dynamics, and, just not having enough of something in one place, and it resulting in really, the impact is the people who do want to store and have to stay, they either have to go somewhere else, way inconvenient to store, or they store in this market and pay 30, 40, 50% more than other people are paying in adequately served markets. And self-storage is a very micro thing. People want to store within, a mile or 2 or 3 of where they are. They don't want to go, they don't want to drive an hour to store. They want to drive 10, 15 minutes. So ultimately, that's the answer to the question. I'm not sure I can, convince you in any way, but certainly it's, we make large investments every day in markets like yours, and you've got a dynamic place here to live. You can look around and see it growing, and, people building more resi and things going on, and it's just frankly underserved.
Do you know specifically, and I do appreciate that answer, do you know specifically what the occupancy is of those 3 other locations on Eastern Ave and what their rates are?
We do keep up, they're over, combined, they're over industry average, which would mean over 93% occupied.
If I may, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. John Parcel, an attorney and working in conjunction with Attorney McDonald, 479 Eastern Ave. Before the Board of Appeal hearing, I did a fact-finding mission. I went to the U-Haul facility on the corner of Ferry and Eastern Ave. I also went to the location at 650 Eastern Ave, the public storage, the old Continental can. And then I also went to the storage facility at 490 Eastern Ave. My most recent fact-finding foray, I'll detail exactly what I found. At the U-Haul storage, there's 500-plus units. I went in and asked them what was available. They had one that was opening up, and they showed it to me. So that was that was the recent visit. And when I say recent, this is in the last week or so. I went to 650 Eastern Ave. They had 688 units, and there were approximately 15 that were open at this time. So again, well over 90%. Then 490 Eastern Ave, another facility labeled public storage. They had over 900 units, and over 90% were taken in full. And having discussed it with the operators or the employees that were working at these facilities, there are times when they're completely full, and other times when they're in, the 90-plus capacity. And as you know, Malden continues to grow. I think they're still building down at the quarry. I think more apartments are envisioned for the quarry. We know that Jefferson apartments are starting to fill up, and there's obviously in Malden's population, if you saw the recent census, I think went up over 60,000, maybe it's getting close to 70,000. So there's a demand, and as was mentioned, they did market analysis. They wouldn't be coming, obviously, unless they knew that there was a demand. I mean, they're in that business, so that's anecdotal, but that's what I found.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
You all set, Patrick?
I am, thank you.
Ken Antonucci.
To follow up on that, I mean, it's basically, so it's a supply-demand, and as the number of apartments and housing units increases here, I mean, that's what's driving the need for the additional storage capacity in the city?
Definitely a large driver, but, I mean, candidly, without it, it's still, you would still just be way underserved. It's a problem. I mean, I've been a part of that before, going somewhere and actually not being in where I live and have a storage facility there, and it's something. I went, 5 years ago in Nashville, Tennessee, I almost had to drive to another city to get a self-storage facility because it was just that underserved, and that happens in a lot of places. Granted, there's some markets that actually I don't even really know of one today that's overserved. I mean, the way people are living. I mean, you've got so many work-at-home people now that are rearranging everything at home so they can be at home, and I mean, candidly, self-storage has been I guess you would call a real beneficiary from the way people are changing the way they're doing things, and actually just overwhelmed the industry in some respects. I mean, you listen to the conference calls of the public companies, and they're all-time ever high, occupancies and rates. We reported 20-something% same year NOI growth. That means, they're really full, and they're pushing rents and rates on customers because there's a lack of supply. And that's throughout the country, and that's in markets that they're mostly in, where supply is 7 or 8 square feet per capita. And ones like this, you just forget about it. People can't find units. When they do, they're getting charged a lot of money.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Michelle? Yes, go ahead.
Back to the area of facilities, did you look at 420 Eastern Ave? That's where the Wonder Bread Factory used to be. I'm curious because When that proposal came to us, it was a different type of self-storage. It was these pods, they said, so you wouldn't be able to walk in. It was a separate container type facility? Did you look
I
at?
did go to 420, and you're right, there were pods on the surface. They weren't units, so to speak. There were pods that were left there, so it was a different type of
Okay, so-
operation.
And you're not doing anything like that?
No.
Okay.
No, ma'am, traditional, you have a space, you lock it, you keep the keys.
Okay. You mentioned, or one of you mentioned, minimum of 650 units. What's the maximum? Because the plans, I believe, showed 694.
Yes, ma'am. It would not vary more than 5%. I mean, it would probably anywhere between in that 630 to 685. The thing about it is, it's like we can move a wall. You know, we can have a 5 by 10 backed up against a 5 by 10, and we only have 2 units left, and somebody comes in and says, hey, I want a 10 by 10. It's like, hey, you can unscrew the back wall, and we just reduced our unit count by 1 and accommodated a customer. You can't do that everywhere because of the structure, but there's certain sections that really, you just have a back wall. And, a handy person, a handy maintenance person can change your unit count by 2 or 3 units, every day if you need to, once you get down to just needs. So it's not a significant difference. You're not ever adding any square feet. You're just changing the configuration of a room maybe. So, maybe one day at the end of 1 month, you have 643, and then the next month you have 651. And that's to accommodate the customer. It's not drastic. We got this way because one time, years ago, a resolution was, you got 650 units, and then a year later, the fire marshal comes through and looking, okay, you got 651 units, something's wrong, and it's like, so the reason we try to say, it's approximately is because you have that ability in our business to do it, and you don't keep yourself later from having to explain something like that. So it's not significant,
Okay,
Mr. Director.
Okay, so the plans show 694, in itemized 694. So is 694, you think, the maximum, or you're saying you wouldn't?
I thought
Oh.
you said 650. Oh, the
Yeah,
maximum.
no, I mean,
The
what's good-
maximum would be 710.
Okay,
On something like that you would ever see, and maybe, 680. Probably 680 to 710, you would never get outside of that.
okay, the
We're
reason
not
I'm.
that wrong.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is because if this special permit's granted, it will be all development as per plans, except as modified by these conditions. Now, previously, there had been a condition in previous special permits granted for self-storage facilities where we put a maximum number of units in, and it was based on the plan. What I don't want to have, an issue is that there's a number put in and that's not the correct number. The plans are showing 694, but you're saying it could be higher than 694. I don't want there to be an issue with that. So is there any,
It'll never be more than 700.
700
If you
would
wanna
be the
put it at-
max?
Yeah.
Okay,
We won't really be adding partitions unless we just get to a point where it's like, oh, man, we have too many of this. Let's make 2 units out of these 3 ones, and yes, that would
Okay.
be just fine.
thank you. So you think 700?
Yes,
Okay, my other question, the sizes on the plan range from 25 square feet to 300 square feet. What was your sense of this proposal to voluntarily donate 1 unit to be available at no charge to Housing Families, Inc., or a similar nonprofit housing agency? What size unit
Yes,
would
ma'am.
that be?
We agreed on a 10 by 15.
10 by 15?
Yeah, 10 by 15. That's what
Okay.
we agreed with the council on. Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. in terms of the signage, I have a question about this. What's the I'm not understanding, what signage, you're saying the counselor wanted signage on the back? What would the signage be, like a mural or a signage to your building?
It was signage related to the business and the building. It was not to be art or anything like that. Councilor Winslow just thought, now that it is permitted under ordinance for additional signage, that it would be nice if there was some signage that faced the bike trail. And as I said, Petitioner is more than happy to accommodate that request by the councilor. The only limitation would be, as with any signage, it's subject to approval by SDRC.
Yeah, I'm not sure signage is allowed on the back of a building.
That's what we thought, that's why we said.
It is, I'm sorry.
We'll do it if we can.
Nelson Miller is shaking his head, yes or no? It is allowed, okay. So, I mean, I don't, was there some sense that you wouldn't put it unless it was a condition? Because we normally wouldn't put requirements that you must put a sign. Did he have a, you know, I wasn't there for the conversation,
The
so.
need is not there, the need is not there for us to have one.
Okay,
So
I was just curious
If we
about
hadn't
that.
gotten that comment, we would not have done it, but we're happy to do it to accommodate the councilman.
Okay, because that's, like I said, not something we typically would put in as a condition. If you agree to do it, that's your agreement. The problem is that then if you change your mind and it's not a condition, so I'm not really sure, the board will have to discuss that.
We want to make sure that Councilor, we wanted to be clear to the board and for the benefit of Councilor Winslow that he had requested this and we agreed to it. Whether or not it
Yeah,
takes the form of a formal condition, but in any potential planning board approval, that has to be left to the discretion of the board. We just want to assure Councilor Winslow that his concern and his desire with respect to that particular issue is going to be met by this petitioner.
We'll
Okay.
make the effort.
okay, thanks. And back to the gates that are near the bike trail. So they'll be locked and they'll be used only for maintenance access?
That's the plan, yes.
Okay.
It's not designed or intended to be for the purpose of facilitating traffic between the bike trail and the site. We think frankly that causes more potential problems and potential security risk than any benefit that might be obtained from that. And as Member Antonucci indicated, we're not of the opinion that there's going to be a significant volume of people coming to the facility who are utilizing it, but coming to and fro on a bicycle. It just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense in a store. Not impossible, but not a very likely scenario.
Yeah, I was just wondering if instead of going through the broken fence next door, they would open a gate, drive down and go, you know, to the convenience store or Dunkin' next door.
Well,
But I
it's-
don't know that. I mean, I thought that's what the gate was there for, so that you could have a more secure access to, you know, some of the businesses next door to you, not necessarily to the self-storage, but was just my comment, okay. And then the color scheme, so this is again, the board doesn't normally decide on color schemes, but that's not the public extra storage color scheme that's down the street. So is there a trademark color, or?
That's it. The wasabi green is what it's called in our door and,
I thought it was orange, the one at 490.
oh, you're talking about theirs, yeah. No,
Oh,
public storage is not our operator.
oh, I thought that was extra storage too. No?
That's public storage.
Oh, sorry. Okay, thank you. I think that's all I had, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Does anyone else have any questions for the petitioner? Eric Henry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First and foremost, I would say I appreciate Patrick's question. I appreciate your responses to the question. It definitely, you know, added some commentary to some questions I had as well. I do have a kind of technical question, and you have a great opportunity. You went to the Historical Society and you can demolish the building and all that good stuff, but can you speak more to, I think it's C5.1 02, where you have some drawings of drainage. Can you talk more about your stormwater drain water approach to this property?
The question was related to stormwater management.
Correct.
So currently, right now, we're showing the building, the roof drains are primarily collecting in the front, discharging into subsurface culverts, and then discharging out to the street. Trying to coordinate with the city engineer, we've had some discussions, and based on his letter that we received this evening, to try to detain as much water as possible before connecting an overflow into the street. So with that, we're going to coordinate with him to provide some means of detention within the parking field that will be subsurface. And then the peripheral of the building will just be grading to drain around the building. There's a high point on the back side of the building. So water will go around the building that way and allow it to sheet flow out. And overall, it is a reduction of about 20% impervious area. So the rates, the peak rates of runoff are getting reduced compared to existing conditions. So there's less water coming off of the site under proposed conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, just a follow-up to that. How much, I'm sorry, you mentioned it, but how much did you say the percentage is going to, out to the street, to the stormwater system?
Currently, everything essentially goes out to the street, the way that the existing site is and the proposed site is graded. Yep.
Right, no, but your proposed building, all the roof drains to the,
Correct. All the roof drain is collected in the front, will be discharged out.
okay, because you mentioned scuppers along the perimeter on the other sides. What are they collecting then?
Correct. The scuppers, they're in the front of the building, so the roof is all sloped to the front.
Okay.
And then there's the scuppers. There'll be downspouts coming down. that
Okay,
will get
so
collected.
everything from the roof is going to be going into the city drain system. The only thing that's going into the surface around the perimeter is just what falls onto the landscaped areas.
Correct.
And then you said, you're talking about some detention capabilities. What about any, below-grade infiltration?
Yep. So based on the soils out there, so we're going to look to provide a system underneath in here that all this can tie into. And then we'll have a smaller pipe orifice coming out to slow the water down, to make sure we're not over capacity within the system, coordinating with the engineer, make sure he's good.
But you'll have some site infiltration as well as overflow?
We could try, so there's a clay layer down, so clay is not really conducive to that.
Right.
But we can put in a system and leave it like an open bottom, and any benefit that we can get out of it, maybe we can do that. So that's a discussion point I'd further like to have with the city engineer.
Sure. All right. Thank you.
Okay. If there are no other questions for the petitioner, is there anything else you'd like to add for your presentation?
Just one minor note, Mr. Chairman, on the petitioner's willingness, at the request of Ward Councilor-elect Winslow, to provide a unit for referrals that might come from housing families or other housing support agencies. Again, the petitioner is more than happy to provide a 10 by 15 unit at no charge. I just want to make clear, and to the extent that it might be a condition of any approval that could be forthcoming, that although there would be no charge for the rental of the unit, anybody utilizing it would be subject to the standard rental contract utilized by the company in all other respects. So anybody referred and taking advantage of that opportunity would have the same obligations as any other renter, except for the obligation to pay money every month for that unit. That's my only other comment.
And can you delineate some of the obligations that one would have short of paying? Do you mean like no living in there, or no
Well,
damaging to it, or who would be responsible for, in the event that something got damaged?
I don't want to overstate it. It's a pretty basic standard rental contract, but as you suggested, it prohibits certain things like utilizing it for residential purposes. It may prohibit certain types of storage, you know, no hazardous materials, that sort of thing. Again, not to make too much of it, it's going to be a standard rental agreement. Their rental agreement doesn't differ substantively from any other company's rental agreement with respect to self-storage. But we just wanted to make sure that the board understood that anybody who was taking advantage of the free unit that was being offered would be expected to use it consistent with the contract that applies to every other person who's renting space in the building.
Would you not have Malden Housing families be the occupant, and then as they need use of it, that they would move whatever goods in and out, or are you looking at every time it turns over, there would be more back office paperwork generated?
The expectation was that it would be more like a referral, that someone from Housing Families or some other agency might have an individual in need of a storage space. And the expectation was that individual would be the renter of the unit within the building. The petitioner certainly could explore that. Maybe that makes more sense from a business and from a practical perspective, is just have the entity or institution be the renter, and then they could refer anybody they wanted to, or allow anybody they wanted to utilize it. I'm not sure if that's something that Housing Families or a similar agency would want to get involved in. They might not want to be the formal renter of a unit that's being occupied by someone that they refer to it. We're not sure about that. But
Yeah. Okay. Eric Henry.
Yes, thanks. Since you just happened to bring that up, first of all, I want to say, it sounds like you're going, with regards to the stormwater, drain water issue, you're going to be back in consultation with the city on that. Honestly, you've had other petitions that come before us, and I hope the city can show you, better. I think you can, if you're writing on the board, then you can do better. Engineer to engineer, I understand. And I hope the city does as well. But with regards to, while gracious, you do offer, the one free unit, how long does it take you to reach that critical mass? You say usually in a normal market, it would be 2 years before you reach your 90 percentile occupation. Where are you reaching that saturation point now? Still to 2 years at these guys still?
he's the expert, Member Henry. If he says it's 2 years, we go with what he says.
Okay, cool enough. So I guess the point I'm driving at, sir, is if this was applying this to inclusionary zoning, normally you would expect 10% of the units to be at some non-market rate. This is 70 units would be kind of large to be free, but definitely I don't see why they could not be more negotiable in price to a needy clientele. Even if you went down to 10 units and you had some discounted rate for this needy clientele, I think that you would definitely win in the arena of public opinion. And with that, I'll yield.
Okay. Anything else you guys would like to add?
I don't believe so, Mr. Chairman. I think that concludes the petitioner's presentation.
Very good, thank you. At this time, We'll give them a moment to collect their things. Okay, at this time, we'd like to ask for anyone that would like to speak in favor of this petition. Anyone to speak in favor? If you come up to speak in favor, I remind you, please speak into the microphone, name and address for the record, and sign the clipboard. Anyone to speak in favor? Michelle, do you have anything to read in favor?
Yes, I have one letter, that is undated. Just let me get that date for a second. So we'll have that for the record. So was received by email on November 4th, 2021. It is a letter that reads, "Dear Chair Iovan and board members, I'm writing in support of the special permit request for 950-970 Eastern Avenue. I'm not available to attend the November 10th, 2021 hearing, but I did participate in the Zoning Board of Appeal hearing, so I became familiar with the applicant and project at that time. I want to thank the applicant for the additional outreach that they made to the abutting businesses during the ZBA process, that has resulted in a major change to the building to reduce shading of solar panels. Those changes also reduce the lot coverage of the proposed building to be nearly equivalent to the coverage of the existing building. Even with those changes, the proposal still requires relief for lot coverage and for parking. Given that the lot coverage remains appropriately the same as the existing structures, in that parking space at nearby storage facilities has been adequate, even though being substantially less than our zoning ordinance calls for. I want to express my support for the project, including with that parking and lot coverage relief. Those changes show the developer's commitment to work with the community. At the ZBA, I also requested the applicant consider how the project relates to the Northern Strand Trail. Given the proximity of the building within 5 feet of the MBTA rail right-of-way, the special permit needs to require the permittee obtain permission from the MBTA during construction for any such access and to include measures to provide for the safety of trail users during construction. Unfortunately, some previous projects abutting the right-of-way used MBTA property during construction and had equipment passing and obstructing the trail without regard to the safety of users. The applicant has indicated that they plan to provide rear lighting, on-site bicycle racks, and trail-oriented signage as now allowed by city ordinance, so the permit should reflect those commitments. During the ZBA process, I asked the applicant, and the applicant has indicated their willingness to set aside 1 unit for community benefit to allow storage of Ward 6 4th of July supplies and housing families, which helps displaced people in our area. I request that benefit be specified in the special permit. Sincerely yours, Stephen Winslow, City Councilor at Large. I had a follow-up email received today. I received a follow-up email dated November 10th, 2021. From Stephen Winslow. It reads, on 950-970 Eastern Ave, given the use as a storage facility, I would anticipate that bike racks would be used by potential customers signing up to use the facilities or employees. Though it is not within the purview of the planning board, I think 2 racks would be sufficient for this use. I would support if the applicant makes that request to the ZBA. That's what I had.
Okay. And last call, anyone who wishes to speak in favor? Seeing and hearing none, declare that part of the hearing closed. Anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this petition? Anyone to speak in opposition? Michelle, anything to read in opposition?
No.
Seeing and hearing no one in opposition, declare that part of the hearing closed. Michelle, do you have anything in general to read?
I have a memorandum from Christina Jew, Assistant City Engineer, dated November 10th, 2021. It's regarding 950-970 Eastern Avenue. It reads, engineering has reviewed the above site plan and offers the following comments. 1, provide stormwater report. The drainage runoff shall be stored on site as much as possible. Currently, there are flooding issues in the area due to an overload of the city's drainage system. 2, provide additional information regarding the connection of the oil and gas separator to the sewer and anticipated cleaning schedule when project is complete. 3, provide design, flow of water and sewer usage through building to confirm that the I-I surcharge fee is not applicable based on anticipated occupation of property. 4, provide additional information, for example, video recording for existing condition of sewer connection from property line to city main prior to connection. 5, provide details on lighting poles and fixtures. Consider light spillage on surrounding residential areas. Will LED lights be utilized for lighting? 6, provide PDF copy of as-built of water, sewer, and drainage utilities once site work is completed. 7, the applicant shall arrange with the city engineer for scheduling the following inspections. A, initial inspection prior to approval of any plan. This will include inspection of on-site soil investigation testing. B, inspection prior to cutting and capping utilities. C, inspection prior to backfilling of any underground drainage or stormwater conveyance structure. And D, final inspection when all work, including construction of stormwater management facilities and landscaping, have been completed. If you have any questions on the above comments or would like to discuss this further, please do not hesitate to contact me directly.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, can you take us through your staff report, please, and recommendation?
So this is a report, it's entitled Planning Report and Recommendation. It's dated November 10th, 2021. It's incorporated herein by reference to the record of this hearing and into your decision. I may not read everything verbatim. I'll try not to repeat things that have already been discussed about the proposal. We heard about the proposal, the petitioner referenced that the Historical Commission has made the determination that the building is not significant pursuant to the demolition delay ordinance. That is dated March 31st, 2021. You have a copy of that. You have a list here of the plans and information submitted with the petition. I won't read those into the record, but they're here for your reference. You've also received copies of all the plans. In terms of zoning and occupancy, the property is located in the Industrial 1 zoning district. The proposed self-storage facilities use is allowed by special permit. Direct abutters to the north is the abandoned railroad right-of-way used as the public multimodal recreational trail bike to the Sea Path Northern Strand Community Trail. On the other side, to the north of which are residential dwellings. To the east is a plaza with restaurants, retail sales, retail services, general offices, a convenience store, bank. To the west is manufacturing, and to the south on the other side of Eastern Avenue, 2 family dwellings and general offices. Surrounding land uses are residential, business, and industrial. In terms of dimensional controls, the proposed new building occupied for the proposed self-storage facilities use eliminates the existing front and side yard setback violations, maintains the existing building coverage violation, and creates no new violations or nonconformities. In terms of parking, loading, and screening requirements, the proposal requires 82 off-street on-site parking spaces. Variance was granted by the Board of Appeal on August 18, 2021. You have a copy of that in your package. The variance allowed 15 spaces. The 15 spaces are proposed, 12 are exterior in that outside lot, and 3 are interior. They're depicted on the first floor plan. They're adjacent to the loading area in an area labeled covered loading. In terms of landscaping, yard areas which are not paved for parking or access must be landscaped, and regulations require 1 shade tree per 10 parking spaces of a certain caliper and height with curbing and drainage area. The existing and proposed landscape plans depict landscaping in 8 trees. Okay, this is not correct. So I will get back to you on that landscaping. Okay, so the regulations require 1 shade tree per 10 parking spaces. So 2 trees would be required. So that last sentence is incorrect. That is not applicable to this petition. That's not correct. Just looking to see if there are the 2 shade trees. I see 1 deciduous tree. I'm not sure, I don't see the second shade tree, but I'm not sure, you might want to ask the petitioner in case I'm missing that. I think I did not complete this part of the review. Do you want to ask the petitioner?
Yes, can someone identify the 2, at least 2 shade trees?
Yeah, we're showing 1 deciduous tree at the front of the facility, at the front entrance, and then there's 7 evergreen trees placed around the property as well.
Okay, so are those 3? Is that,
So, yeah, 1 and 6, yeah.
6? Okay, 1 I see. Okay, so 6 are the other ones?
They're along the easterly property.
Okay, so 6 PVS is what it's called. So what type of tree is that?
There's 1 deciduous tree, which is scarlet oak, and then the evergreen trees are the 6 to 7 foot height arborvitae.
Okay, so I do see those, okay. So are those arborvitae, are those considered shade trees?
I can confirm with my landscape architect. If needed, we can certainly put another oak tree out there.
Yeah, I don't think, I'm not a landscape architect, but I think that evergreen isn't a shade tree, right? Those arborvitae are like a tall shrub, right? A shade tree is something you could potentially stand under and be shaded, right? So I think you are missing one of the shade trees. So you could replace one of those, the one up near the street front, maybe closer to the public view, or anywhere in that area would be fine.
Certainly.
Never mind, anywhere in that area, so, okay, so that's my mistake, so. We'll, add that as the condition, Snow storage, there is a snow storage area proposed, which exceeds the required for the uncovered parking spaces. Bicycle parking, as we mentioned previously, is actually not required for this proposal because this is an industrial use. They are proposing 2 bike racks, providing parking for 4 bikes. Loading, no loading is required for self-storage facilities use. The proposal does include an interior loading area labeled covered loading on the first floor. That's where the 3 interior parking spaces are. 6, in terms of dumpsters, a dumpster in a gated enclosure is proposed. As the petitioner noted, as I had noted, it is located within 20 feet of the property line. That's in violation of siting requirements. They did not receive a variance, so they would need to move that dumpster or seek a variance. In terms of 7, in terms of screening, no screening of the parking area is required because it does not abut any residential uses. The proposal did not require a traffic study per your rules and procedures. And that is everything. Do you want me to go forward with the recommendation?
Yes, please.
So the findings you must make to grant the special permit: 1, you must find any creation or increase in violation of dimension controls or parking requirements will not be more detrimental to the neighborhood. You must find the traffic patterns generated by the proposed use will not adversely impact any of the surrounding streets or create a traffic or safety hazard. You must find the proposed use will not be more detrimental to the neighborhood, is not in conflict with surrounding land uses, and is in the interest of the common good. So provided that you can make all those findings, those 5 findings, the recommendation is that a special permit be granted subject to the following conditions. 1, all development shall be as per plans except as modified by these conditions. 2, provide bicycle parking for 4 on site in location near entrance to the building. Provide bicycle parking for 4 on site near entrance to the building. 3, relocate site dumpster to be no less than 20 feet from property lines. 4, perform daily trash and litter management of the entire site. 5, install and maintain landscaping of the site as per planting plan. And include 2 shade trees, so we'll add that there. Replace, or we could say must include 2 shade trees. Replace any trees along Northern Strand Community Trail bike to the sea path disturbed during demolition or construction. That was noted on their plan that they were gonna do that. 6, install and maintain a 5-foot-high ornamental fence with gates along the northern property line. We'll add, I'll recommend that you add, gates shall be locked and used for maintenance access only. A 6-foot-high chain link fence with black vinyl along the western property line. 7, no outside storage is allowed except for trash stored in the enclosed dumpster. 8, install, repair, or replace sidewalks and driveways and perform necessary incidental work adjacent to the property to the satisfaction of the DPW director. 9, install cameras and lighting in locations along Northern Strand Community Trail bike to the sea path abutting the property to be determined by Ward City Council and Malden Police, and maintain cleanliness of that portion of the trail path abutting the property, including but not limited to litter control and removal of overgrown vegetation. I would recommend you add, I would also recommend a condition 10, comply with all requirements stated in memo dated November 10th, 2021 from City Engineering Department. 11, the maximum, and I would say the maximum number of self-storage units is 700. As I mentioned, that was a condition, you placed conditions like that in previous permits. I took that out, and I'm not sure why I took it out, but I'm honestly not sure if you should require that, because if it ends up being 701, or there's an issue, so maybe you don't need to put a maximum. I think previously there was some sense that larger units could accommodate different types of storage. They might not be used just for residential storage, and there was some concern about that. Or smaller units might generate more people and more traffic, more units. Smaller units and there'd be more of them. So I think that was the thinking at the time. So I'm not sure, but if you do want to put a condition, I would say use the number they gave, 700. 694 are shown on the plan. So that would be 11. I would recommend 12, as voluntarily agreed by petitioner, 1 storage unit 10 by 15 square feet in size shall be available at no charge for use by Housing Families, Inc. or a similar nonprofit Malden housing organization. I understood kind of what the chair had said, that it would be, the group would use it and they would allow tenants potentially, not tenants, but their clients to use it. I didn't understand that it would be a referral and then it would be left. So I think we should leave it as it's going to be managed or under the control, if you will, of that company. I'm not sure how it actually works, because then when is the person no longer a tenant, no longer a client of Housing Families? You know, so if they refer somebody and then the person's using it, do they have it unlimited, an unlimited time? That seems a little confusing to me. I think if you want the Housing Families or a similar group to be able to use it for the benefit of their clients, if you will, I think that's probably the best way to leave it.
No, I agree.
The Fourth of July storage is the first I heard when I read the letter. I know in the past, on a previous petition, it was represented at the hearing that 2 units would be for ward storage. It was not put in as a condition, and I do know that that has come back to be a concern for the counselors that thought that was part of the deal, if you will. So it's up to this board. If you do not put that in as a condition, then I don't believe it's necessarily going to be enforceable unless the petitioner or whoever, you know, owns it continues to do it. So that, I'm not sure about that. And the couple other things I heard, protecting Bike to the Sea, needing MBTA access or rights. I'm not sure how we would be regulating that. Bike to the Sea, we do have a lease, but I'm not really sure, and I don't know if Nelson Miller has any more info as to how that happened, that they were blocked from access or whatever it was. I'm not sure. We could put it in as a condition that they will not block access, or they'll maintain safety during construction. I'm just not really sure what exactly that means or how we would enforce it. So I did hear that mentioned, and I think there's something, you know, to be looked at there. The signage on the rear of the building, I'm not making any recommendation about that. I think that's under sign design review, but as I said, if they decide not to put the signage, we can't make them put the signage. We haven't actually seen a plan showing signage, so I don't know that you want to require signage. And then finally, the color scheme, I'm not sure, I wouldn't make any recommendation about the color scheme. In case this changes ownership or hands, and it's a company branding issue, I don't think we want to see a petitioner have to come back because the building's not.
So you're making 12
Right.
recommendations?
Yes, I'm sorry, I am. I'm just mentioning those other things for your consideration.
No,
Yes,
that's
I had 12 recommendations. The 9 that were listed with amendments, 10 had to do with the city engineer, 11 had to do with the maximum number of units, and 12 had to do with the storage unit being available for housing families. Those were the 12 conditions.
Okay, Ken has a question?
Yeah, going back to the, you know, the public safety and the access by the bike path and everything, I don't know if Commissioner Miller can speak to that, but wouldn't that fall under building department, kind of watching over the construction?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I think the origin of that concern, and I don't want to speak for Councilor Winslow, was during the construction of the building over at 100 Maplewood, the old Papagino site. I know that as that building was going up, which is just about on the property line, there was some construction activities that leaked into the bike path, and the ward council had some issues with all of that. So I think he's probably trying to prevent some of that by making it, you know, part of the special permit. I don't know if this site would have that same kind of issue because of the difference in height between the two, you know, between the bike path and the site itself. So it's not exactly going to would be a convenient place to use as a laydown area for construction. But the shorter answer is, yeah, we would be involved in, obviously, the, you know, on-site safety of the site as it progressed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Eric Henry.
Mr. Miller, I was trying to get you before you, and you may not be the right person. Would you have any knowledge, further knowledge about the potential of the drainage, stormwater or drain water?
No, just a quick conversation I had with Yem Lip this afternoon. He reached out to me towards the end of the day just to ask some questions, and I knew that he was going to send that memo out to Michelle, so
Okay.
no.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, does anyone have any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Miller. Does anyone else have any other questions for Michelle? Is there a motion? Ken Antonucci.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to grant the special permit subject to the 12 conditions as recommended by the planner.
Okay, Kenny's made a motion to approve based on the recommendation of staff and the 12 conditions. that we just identified. Tawadich Gabriel.
I will second.
And Tawadich has seconded that motion. Thank you. Okay, give me 1 second here. Very good.
Ken Antonucci,
Yes.
Patrick Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Tawadich Gebrselassie,
Yes.
Risa Gray,
Yes.
Patrick Hayes,
Yes.
Eric Henry,
No.
Henry Susi,
Yes.
Charles Leoven.
Yes.
So that is 7 to
7 to
1, so
1.
that carried, so the special permit was granted.
Yes, the special permit's granted. Thank you very much.
We have those, thank you, Pat.
Yeah, with everything online, the tear sheets seem to be outdated.
Well, no, we personally verify it's in the paper before we send out all the notices, so we've been doing that for a
Okay.
while now.
Very
We
good.
didn't used to do that, but we do it now, so.
Okay. Let me see. The next order of business, after Michelle tidies up a little bit, is an update on Community Preservation Commission.
We're moving along. We're meeting again on the 17th. I really can't really speak to any big issues that, one issue in particular we're all in, but we're doing, it's, unless somebody have any questions, I can, try to find out.
Nope, that's fine, thank you.
Cool.
Very good. Next item is December meeting will be December 8th. We tabled one from tonight, and I believe there's at least one more.
Do have 47 Francis Street will be coming to you. They have gone through the Historical Commission review process, and the permit has been released. It was just released this week. So they have revised plans, so that's what you will be presented. So that, and then we have the Highland Ave. I'm not sure, there are a couple other cases that are in the process of being filed, but I'm not sure anything else will be ready.
Okay, thank you very much, Michelle. I believe that's it. Everyone, have a happy and healthy Thanksgiving, and we will see you all in December. Motion to adjourn from Ken, seconded by Eric Henry. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.